Hey, security peeps. We are live again with another issue of Breaking Into Cybersecurity. And today we are going back to our roots. We have, first and foremost, I am Renee Small, cybersecurity super recruiter, helping wonderful cybersecurity professionals get into opportunities and helping leaders hire excellent cybersecurity talent. I'm going to introduce my co-host, Christophe Foulon.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, Chris. And then we have a special guest today, Jenni Natiw. Say hi to everyone, Jenni.
Hey, everybody.
So the reason why I said we're going back to our roots is because Jenni is one of the original types of people we would have on the podcast. And we wanted to, we're continuously looking for people who have recently broken into the field. Many of you who may not have seen the podcast prior to when we started going live, we used to interview tons of people just like Jenni. Jenni broke into the field 3 years ago. So our whole focus with breaking into security was to make sure that we were highlighting people who were new to the field, who were under 5 years in the field, and really trying to understand how you broke in, and tell your story. So super excited to have Jenni here today. Jenni, we're going to jump right in and have you kind of share with us what made you even think of cybersecurity as a career.
Yeah. So I kind of fell more into the security space accidentally, but I was more focused on just like IT, cloud, and the company that I initially got hired into as an IT professional was a cloud security company. So by kind of no real want, I guess, of focusing on security, I kind of got stuck into it, and I absolutely love it. I kind of got started because I was a receptionist and mailroom contractor for a very large tech company, cloud provider in the DMV area. And I was there for about 1.5 years. And I worked around a lot of IT security people, engineers, developers, even, marketing, sales, all the different types of people who work at large companies like that. And I just kind of saw their day-to-day and kind of looking at myself as late 20s, no college degree, no anything. I kind of wanted to get into a more of a career type thing. So I just kind of asked them a lot of questions of, what do you do day to day? And what is kind of your focus? What made you want to do this? And it turns out it's a perfect fit because I love puzzles and I love the intricate type of stuff that nobody really likes to do, apparently. So just kind of identifying what they do and kind of how they do it, getting some mentors, and then just kind of going from there. That's kind of where I landed here.
Wow, you touch on all the things that we've heard from other people as well as recommend, with asking questions if you want to move into a role, finding mentors, and just going and finding a niche that you can excel in that other people don't want to do so that you can shine. Wow, you just hit on everything right there. Were you able to transition from the role in the mailroom at that company directly to a role there, or did that help you find a role somewhere else?
So kind of I was trying to, but I ended up taking the offer that I got from the company that I'm at currently. I wanted to be more in a startup, like small business type, culture. And although I have that kind of startup culture at the large company that I was contracting for, this other company just seemed more kind of family-esque, I guess you could say. When I started, I was the 13th person who worked there, not hired in, but and now we're a company of, I think, over 80. And then we've just recently been acquired as well. So now we're a company of thousands, I guess. So I did want to kind of go into that initial company, but when I kind of talked a little bit more with the people that I interviewed with at the other company, it seemed like it was a no-brainer. It was a fit there really, really well. And I could actually grow a lot more at the smaller company. It gave me a lot more opportunities to grow, a lot more opportunities to learn a lot of different things. Whereas at the other company, I would be very kind of pigeonholed into one specific role. And it's just been awesome so far. So
that's amazing. So to what Chris said, I mean, you touched on everything. And what you said just now is something that I think people tend to ask that question a lot. You know, should I try to go with a big company? Should I go with a small company? And what you just said about being in a small company where you're able to kind of move around and get your hands dirty in a number of different things is something that I think I just want to highlight it, that you said that, because that makes such a good point. Like, you were able to move around, whereas if you were in a big, large company, you may not have been able to move around as much and as quickly.
Yeah.
So how long did it go ahead?
Oh, I was going to say, I think that I learned more working at a smaller company because I had to wear so many hats kind of in the beginning. And I also was able to work very closely with our CTO and founder. So it was instrumental in my growth that I was able to have so many really amazing, smart, just friendly resources that I could use, that people were wanting to help me ramp up in that area. So as we grew, I was kind of able to hand my hats off to different people, which was really cool. So I can kind of hone in on the support aspect of what I do now. But yeah, I think being the small aspect and learning to grow from there, I think I learned more that way than I would have at a large company like the one that I worked contracted for.
And you said that you liked to do the things that other people didn't. So you like puzzles. Talk to us about that. So you were in the mailroom, and then you're taking on these additional projects. Tell us, walk us through, like, the first time you went and you asked for something else, or you saw like some problem that you wanted to solve.
Yes, there was actually, it was kind of funny. I was just, one of my duties, I guess, at that company was also making sure different rooms, like conference rooms and stuff, were stocked. And so I was walking around, and classic me, just like smiling and like bopping around and like excited, to just be doing anything. I had a lot of people who worked at that company that I was contracted for who noticed that. And someone had stopped me and said, I've noticed the way that you work, and, your demeanor and your positivity and your personableness, whatever. Have you ever thought about working at this company in a different type of scenario where you're, talking to customers a lot, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? I never thought about it, but that's kind of cool. I guess we could do that. And so I kind of thought about it, and I didn't necessarily want to go for that specific thing that he had talked about, but I was like, hey, do you think, are you open to mentoring? Because I want to learn about what you do, and he at the time was a manager for support, technical support for them. So very knowledgeable, like at the time, 13 years of Linux knowledge, and worked at a bunch of different companies. And he was just like my number one mentor. Like, he gave me a Dell laptop with an old version of Ubuntu on it. And he gave me a blank CD, and he said, take it home, and put Fedora 24 on it as an operating system just to kind of test my Linux skills. And I had never really done anything with Linux before. And so I'd never even done anything with really operating systems, like nothing. I was like, AIM and like AOL and like stuff like that back in the day. And so like, that was like my whole thing. But he gave me a laptop, he gave me a CD, and he said, and a DVD, like blank writable. And he's like, here, put Fedora 24 on it and I'll mentor you. And so I went home that day at like 7 p.m. and I worked from like 7 p.m. until like 1 a.m. trying to Google my way out of this. And I actually did. So like at 1 a.m.
Nice.
At 1 a.m. I sent him a text of a screenshot of Fedora 24 on that old Dell laptop that he gave me to try it on. And he was like, all right, so this is what we'll do then. And he kind of just laid out that Monday was going to be our office hours from 6 to 8. And throughout the week, we just kind of checked in with each other. And I had certain things that I had to do or look up or research. But there was a lot of labs. And one of the things that he was really adamant about was, hey, you should, while you're learning Linux, while you're learning all this networking and stuff, I want you to create a blog, start a website, and blog about your journey for Linux and learning Linux networking and stuff like that. So I was like, okay. Unfortunately, my Jenni.rocks domain has expired and is now taken, and my
get it back up.
Yeah, I know, and it was on DigitalOcean. It was on DigitalOcean, so and I didn't back up anything because, of course, I was like new, and I was like, oh yeah, it's just always going to be there. It's not always going to be there. So, so I kind of lost that, but like I kind of know everything that I have on there and stuff. It was just a really good exercise, and it was awesome to just be able to have somebody who has that connection into the field and be able to ask those questions. And when I get stuck on something, have them help me out and stuff. But every time I say, oh my gosh, thank you for teaching me everything, he's always like, you did that yourself, but I just kind of showed you the way. So, and I've had a lot of different people kind of that I've tapped, and I've been like, hey, I know that you're really good at this one thing. Can you help me out? Like, can you show me like what you do? Just because I have this kind of inquisitive nature that cannot be like,
Yeah.
Like I need more info. And as for like the puzzles thing, I'm super like ADHD, and so I need stimulation. So I need something that's always going to keep my focus. If I can just like go on autopilot for something, it's a struggle for me to maintain focus and do a good job. So I think that having something that's kind of ever changing and doing something different every day, but kind of in that same space, like really helps keep my focus.
No, that's so important. One of the things that you just said recently about having like ADHD, and I don't know if you're joking about it, but like just having having that, but knowing that that's your superpower. Like people, they look at it in a negative, sometimes in a negative way, but like you utilize that. That's your superpower. So you're doing the stuff that nobody else wants to do because they have to do like, maybe one thing over and over again. And you're just digging and digging and digging. And that curiosity and that like puzzle, like putting together puzzles and things like that, that's what makes you so successful and so willing to, like, I don't know how many people would have taken that CD home at 7 p.m. and stayed up till 1 a.m. and gotten it done for the mentor to realize, okay, this woman is serious.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks like, oh, you have a mentor, like, oh, I need a mentor or what have you, but they don't realize how serious one needs to be to do this kind of stuff. So,
and that curiosity is key.
Yeah, I always say that I'm nosy and like, but I definitely as for like the finding things out and like doing that and like making sure that I'm taking that time, it's like I just feel like I have this like fear of missing out. So I always feel like I have to get everything done like super quick so that way I can just get on to the next thing and like get more stuff to do, or I don't know. I guess, but yeah, I'm just nosy and I want to know everything. So.
And what are some of the ways that you get that additional information? Like, what are some of the ways that you feed that curiosity?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways, a couple different ways that I've done that. I've purchased books, I've been given books, whether that's on online like ebooks or physical books, which I have in my library. I also have paid for a Cloud Guru subscription annually, so that way I can do different courses on that. So like last year, when I was at Google Next, I actually got my Google Cloud Engineer Associate certificate. So I'm working on doing certificates for cloud. And I also I've been recently thinking about going back to school, college, because I did do a little bit of college. I didn't ever finish. I don't have a degree, but I am someone who likes to learn. If it was up to me, I think I would be a professional student. If I had all the money in the world and I didn't have to work, like I would be a professional student. I would learn like 30 languages and I would have like my doctorate in like 7 things. So like I just like to learn. I'm a sponge, and I just feel like, knowledge is power. So it really is power. So, the more you know, the more you can help people, the more you can help yourself. And like, you just have to kind of anything that can help you. YouTube videos, books, articles, people, anything free or paid for. Just make sure you're paying for something that is going to help you, that you're going to use, and that you're not wasting your money on. But yeah,
that's such a good point. You're just like a continuous learner. So everything that leaders ask for in cybersecurity professionals, or just all professionals as a whole, it's like we want people that are going to continue to learn and grow and dig more, because we're always fighting. Like there's never, with security, it just never stops.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense that somebody like you would be, excelling and growing and getting even more deeper into the field because of your, innately your personality. Like to your point, you would be a professional student, learning, growing, just wanting to learn more about things as a whole.
Yeah.
So that's really, really cool.
And I could see where your personality and your positivity will help you excel. Especially, you mentioned that you're in a support role. That's critical to keep customers calm, to help find middle ground if they have to give up some and you have to give up some. Having that type of personality just helps make things a lot easier. And I could see that alone is going to help take you very far, in addition to your constant curiosity.
Yeah, thank you. One of the things that I kind of live by, I guess, is, being in a support role and having done, retail experience in the past, and being in the medical field for a while. People don't necessarily care when bad stuff happens. They want to be kept in the loop, and if you're good at communicating and you're good at managing expectations, that's something that will have, really, really help you, especially in a role that's customer facing, like where I'm at.
Yeah, so it's so key. I feel like your wisdom is way beyond who you are. Like you look like you're 12, but you sound like you're 50. And I say that in all positive ways.
But I think the other thing is from all those different roles that you did in the past, you took transferable skills that a lot of people don't even consider. Your interaction with people, you're learning your social engineering, so to say, of how best to work with people is paying off, because you know when's the best time to approach a different situation with the best approach. So that's something that people that have come from different fields don't always think about, is how they can use their past experience to help them get into the cybersecurity field or excel in the cybersecurity field.
Yeah, definitely. And it goes back to, actually, it was funny, on Monday, I was listening to the Mondays with Dr. Dan that Renee was doing. And it's funny the way that he said it, because I feel like that's actually why I do this. Is you think of yourself as the CEO of your company. And when I interviewed with the place that I work with now, I wanted to go with them as opposed to the other company because of how I felt like I fit there and what I wanted from them. Not that what they could offer me or whatever, because, you know, it was actually, they were a startup. They, you know, were not as, I guess, flexible as, you know, other things would be with working with a large company like that. But being able to transfer my experiences from retail, from medical, from all these other different, from sales, from all these other different things. The biggest lesson that I've learned is just remain humble, because no matter how much you think that you know, somebody out there or lots of people know a lot more than you. And especially being in the security field, if somebody knows more than you, that could be a very bad thing. So remain humble and always like try and dig into more and more things to learn from, so that way you can help your customers, or you can help your organization or company or yourself remain more secure in the cyber world. So yeah. The CEO thing, that was kind of how it all kind of comes together. Yeah. Thanks,
yeah, I saw your comment. Yeah, Dr. Dan, he's pretty awesome. It's so funny. Chris, you weren't on, but I don't know if you watched, but I shouted out Jenni because she had such a good comment on Dr. Dan's show. And I was like, Jenni's going to be with us. So here you are. So in terms of, I know your trajectory was, you know, being in the mailroom, being a receptionist. And the thing is, what I want to point out too, is there's so many leaders that I talk to that say that they bring a lot of people who are receptionists, who are administrative assistants, who again have that knack of being able to calm people down, get things done, juggle many things, you know, especially if you're like a receptionist, you're sitting at a front desk and you have multiple bosses, right? It's like everybody is everybody's
your boss.
Yeah. People coming in the door, people, you know, like the phone ringing, the emails coming, your real, you know, your leader, your CEO or your executive or whoever asking for things, and the constant juggling and reprioritizing and making sure that things don't slip and that everyone, you know, gets what they need and what have you. And that tends to really translate well into analyst roles. So I want to point that out as well, because people might be thinking, oh, I don't have a degree, or I'm only an admin assistant, or I'm only a receptionist. And just showing Jenni's experience and how the positivity, the being there, the doing the juggling, the puzzle, you know, figuring out the different problem solver, you know, being that person that doing the stuff that nobody else wants to do, which is what Sarah talked about 2 days ago as well. I don't know if you got to listen to Sarah Moffat. She was on with the leadership series, saying kind of like she was that person too. So just pointing out all those things that make you such an exceptional, the type of person that a leader is going to say, okay, I want to take this person under my wing. And then even when you did go and say, hey, I want to learn, and they gave you the homework, like somebody else could have taken that homework and just either never come back or whatever. So just want to reiterate all that stuff. But in any event, you, your first role was internal, which is fantastic. You said you had applied to, was it two companies?
Yeah, I applied, like internally at the company that I was contracted for, and then the company that I work at now. And I took that one. So
now, how did you know about, like, did someone tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you should apply? Or okay, so tell me more about that. Your mentor. Okay. Once again,
so my mentor,
listen up, people.
my mentor, he had been pushing me probably for a couple months at that point, and he was like, you're ready to get out of your job as a receptionist. You're ready to, enter the IT field, and you need to do it. You need to do it now. Like, otherwise you're not going to do it. You're never going to be ready. You just need to do it. Just put yourself out there and see what happens. And I was like, okay. So I did. And I had done my resume, and I get really anxious when it comes to doing any type of paperwork. So resumes are a struggle point for me, although I do feel like I have a strong resume. But the resume was a difficult point for me because I didn't have any experience into the field that I wanted to get a job in. So people would look at my resume and probably go, why her or whatever. So especially with no college degree, like no, nothing. So people would really have to, and so I had that conversation with my mentor too, when he was telling me to put myself out there. As I said, hey, how am I supposed to, all of these job recs say you have to have a degree. All of these job recs say you have to have 2 to 5 years experience. All of this stuff has to, blah, 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 blah. There's all these check boxes that I don't match. So what am I supposed to do if there's no job out there for me? And he said something that I've been saying now to everybody. If you go into an interview or something that they say that they've called you back, even though they've looked at your resume, and you don't meet the requirements, it's your job at that point to tell them why you don't need to have them and what you bring, that you don't need a degree. You have these things instead. So that's something that I really clung on to, because I felt like at that point I had, a foot in the race, or so to say. And I was able to kind of get those interviews and talk eloquently with these people, and able to show them that I do know, a lot of things just throughout my own kind of work and studying and stuff like that. So
Claudia asked a question that I was thinking about as you were saying this.
Yes.
So she said, Jenni, do you ever feel like you have imposter syndrome? And if
Every
so,
day.
how do you handle it? How do you handle it? That's the real key.
Every day. I've talked about this with multiple people, because it has been such a, in the big scheme of things, 3 years is not a long time, right? So it does feel like a very quick change. And all of a sudden, it seemed like overnight my life was different. So yes, I do feel like I have imposter syndrome hardcore. That the way that I deal with it is, again, just kind of going back to the remaining humble. That's something that really helps with it, because no one's perfect. And when you have this feel like imposter syndrome, it's because you don't see yourself in the way that other people see you. So what you have to do is you have to work every day in understanding how other people see you and start to see yourself as that. There's a lot of kind of, I guess you could say, like self-esteem or opinion of yourself that you have to work to change, because you have to ensure that you're giving yourself the benefit of the doubt. You're doing the work that you need to do. And if you're doing the work that you need to do and you're doing it well and people are commending you for it, you just kind of have to take it. Take the compliments, okay? Take the good jobs, because I know that I've struggled with that a a lot. And I see somebody says humility is definitely key, but can be hard to maintain. Absolutely. There are times, so I've been working at this position now for almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years actually at the end of this month. So there are weeks where I feel like I am on top of my game and I know everything, and like, don't even ask me because I already know. Like, there's so many things that I feel like I get to that point, but then the very next day or the very next week, like, I'm kicked right on my butt again and I don't know anything and I feel woefully unprepared. And like, it just kind of comes in waves, where that's the thing about security. Because it's so big and you don't know everything, nobody can know everything, right? I mean, unless you're, I don't know, some wacky genius or something. But like, people can kind of kick you into humility through no like real, it's not like malicious or anything. It's just, if you have a good idea of where you're at intellectually for your job, and you work with people who are smarter than you in that area, like, there's no other way but to be humble. So another thing, somebody was saying, I think it was Sarah, I missed the beginning part of it, but another thing, I think it was Sarah, it might've been somebody else, that she said, like, basically it's like a meme that I have that I like love, and it's like resonated with me. It's like a bunch of lions, and it says, like, surround yourself with those who have the same mission as you. And like, that's something that's really important for humility too, is like surrounding yourself with people who have the same thing, and the thought process is, and like the mission of what you want to do for that organization or your company or your life or whatever. Surround yourself with those people, and always go with somebody who is, you can have people who are, you're helping up and you're ramping up, or they're helping you ramp up, so it's always kind of like a pack mentality, and, having somebody kind of be on that same mission, but at different levels, it keeps you humble as well.
It's so important. I mean, Sarah talked about it, to your point. It's just so important to have that, like you said, pack mentality. Sometimes you're in the front, sometimes you're in the back, sometimes you're in the middle, but you're always constantly learning and growing from each other. One point I wanted to make when you talked about the resume, because that's something that comes up so often, when you're transitioning, right? And you have, you're a receptionist, you had all these other different roles, you did retail, you did all these things. And yes, somebody like your resume shows up across somebody like my desk, or, some hiring manager, they're going to be like, this is a mistake. Like, how did this person fall in here? Yeah. And one of the keys that I tell people all the time, I mean, it's fantastic. You have mentors to be able to, push you and make sure people knew you for you. Mm-hmm. And probably because you had that blog out there too, people were able to go and Google you and find out, like, whoa, this isn't just some random receptionist. Like, this lady is, like, this lady is like, she's in doing Linux. She's doing all these different things. Like, this is not, this is the person here on the blog. One of the things I would tell people to do is do exactly like what your mentor said and get that blog, and B, or YouTube channel, or however you want to do it, like whatever is most comfortable for that person. Right now, some people are great writers. Some people are great, are more, they like the video, or they'll teach what they learn, because that makes them, retain. That's what Ron Edding said on last week's blog with the podcast mashup. But what I would tell people is, if you're out there and this is where you are, and either you're brand new to security or whatever, everything that Jenni did, I would take that and turn that into a project section on my resume. So all the stuff that you were doing outside of your day job, so to speak, right? You take that information, you take everything that your mentor gave you, all those projects that you worked on that he said, hey, you're ready now. Those projects are your experience. Yeah. And you can put that in your resume, create a project section. I call it, especially if I'm talking to like interns and things like that, I say, create a section and call it projects, cybersecurity projects, you know, all of the things that you're doing on the side that you're doing that is not a part of your day job at working at Target or whatever. The stuff that's going to get you looked at are these projects that you're working on. So create that project section on your resume. That really is your resume. It's not the stuff that you did before, because people are not going to be able to translate that.
Yeah.
So some questions are coming up and tons of comments. I mean, people are loving everything you're saying. I'm going to shout out some people just because I love doing this, because we have some folks that come back over and over and over again. So Ozzy is recent. She said this is the first time she's actually getting to watch it live. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Ozzy and not Ozzy. Nadia Pinto is a recent grad in cybersecurity. She's here. Thank you for joining us. Charles Karanja is back again. We love Charles, and he made a really good comment that I'm going to put up in a second. George Obi Azubuke, you guys got to make sure that I'm pronouncing your names right. Tyrone is back. Sabu has a question, probably for Chris to answer. Is penetration testing an entry-level role?
I would say probably not. My 2 cents is that in order to be an effective penetration tester, you need to know how to find the vulnerabilities, how to highlight what their impact is, and what mitigations you need in order to fix them. So that's not an entry-level role per se.
Yep. Charles says, I keep coming back to listen to these stories because they stoke a fire within. Listening to you, Jenni, today has been inspiring and very refreshing. Nothing is impossible. So true. This is a man that submitted 200 resumes to get his first job. So he gets it. Nothing is impossible. It's just awesome. And he's right. I'm totally impressed. Oh my God. Okay. So Nadia says, what advice do you give to a recent grad on cybersecurity who doesn't have a lot of experience? So pretty much what I just said. Jenni, you want to add anything else?
I mean, just definitely, just because you graduated doesn't mean that you're done. So keep learning all the time. And same thing, kind of going back to, I don't have a degree, so I don't have that piece of paper that says, hey, she knows things. Definitely, even if you have that, when you go into interviews or when you submit letters or, cover letters or resumes or anything, really put your personal stamp on it. Really say, this is me and this is what you're going to be getting, and this is why I want this. And this is why maybe I don't meet A, B, or C, but I meet D, E, and F. You don't need A, B, and C with me because I got X, Y, Z. So, and that's better, right? So that's I guess just know what you have and market that and sell that, because nobody's perfect and nobody's going to fit into a little box. I know a lot of the things that I've recently done, and I conduct interviews at my company now. I just actually did one this morning, and some of the biggest things that I personally kind of do, I guess, interview grading or whatever on, is culture fit. If you're a positive person, if you're a team player, and a truly team player, not just play one on TV, you really need to be, helpful and wanting help, wanting to learn, but also wanting to help other people too.
Yeah. You bring up a really valid point. Yeah, you're spot on when it comes to culture fit too, because that's one of the areas that people tend to struggle with. And they don't fully understand. A lot of people don't fully understand what that means. And you really you want to make sure that you align yourself to the culture of a company. And that comes from being interviewed and interviewing them and researching the company, because everyone's not going to fit everywhere. And it's good to know where you really fit in. So Jenni, you knew you wanted to be in a smaller environment initially, and get that jump in and do different things. Another person, a small environment might not work for them. They may want to go really, really deep in one area, be a specialist. That's all you do day in and day out, because for that period of time, you want to be deep in that space. A small company probably won't be the right fit. Yeah. You probably want to have a larger company where it's more siloed, that you can get that, continuous, constant learning in that one area. And so even within companies, there's cultures within groups, but overall, really understanding that culture and trying to understand it. And it's tougher when you're trying to break in, because when you're trying to break in, you just want experience somewhere.
Yeah.
So, but for the folks that are, further along in their career, that comes up, like the culture fit piece, and it really, you got to know which is the best fit for you. Are you one of these people that, I want to be behind the scenes, I just want to do this one thing, do it really, really well. When you come, you come to me for this one particular problem, I am the fix-it person in these, handful of areas, versus, oh, I want to be broad, I want to learn more, I would like to jump into this project or that project and just lend myself and help and experience and things like that. So it's key. And like I said, some of the things you're bringing up, I mean, it's just so, so wise. Nadia wants to know what advice. Oh, sorry, I put that out here. Sorry, Nadia. I thought we talked about that already.
Thing that I can say about that, though, is actually something that you just touched on, Renee. Do your research for the company that you're trying to get a job at. Do your research, because the more knowledge that you know about that company, I know for me, I'm like, when I say, oh, why this company, when I'm interviewing people and they tell me like, oh, it's because A, B, and C, and, this is what I want to do. And I love that you guys do this. And I love that you have this. And it's like, oh, so you did your research. You're not just coming in and you were not one of, 700 different places that you just submitted to. And we just happened to be the one that called back, or emailed back. Like, you want to work here. You've done your due diligence in researching why, you want to fit in with our culture here. So that's kind of, I don't know, for me, maybe it's because I am like small culture, like small startup thing, that I really focus a lot on that. But another thing is Nadia, try and do some startup spaces. I know that I interviewed with my then, at the time, CEO and co-founder, the CTO and co-founder, and the COO, who was like the third or fourth person hired from that company. So it was a very intimidating kind of panel, but they didn't make it intimidating because they were very like chill. And one of the things that they did was they took a chance on me. And another person who got hired very shortly after me was a developer who had just gone through Python boot camp. So, and she didn't have any experience really either, but she just did that boot camp, similar to what you have for your, your graduation. People in a smaller space are more apt to take a chance on you because it's more frugal for them. And it also, it helps you learn, honestly. And it kind of helps you dig into what your role could be other places, but just starting kind of small and working your way up.
That's such a valid point, because I'm working with some interns right now. Two things that you touched on. The first was around making sure that you research the company. And I was coaching some interns yesterday, and I said, and they're going for a big company. So you said it about the small companies, Jenny. The big companies, I asked that same question, why us? And so I was trying to explain to them, hey, not just because this is company name X or whatever, like you really want to go into the careers page, look at what's happening in the news with this company, seeing something that aligns to something that you're passionate about. And one of the young ladies I was talking to yesterday, the company that we were working with, they were doing this great thing with Girl Scouts. And I was like, boom, this is, like they're doing this, they're technical company doing this work with Girl Scouts. She's huge. Like she got these awards and she works with Girl Scouts and what have you. I'm like, so I'm just explaining to them, you just don't want to just be surface, right? Like, oh, I want to work for McDonald's because I like burgers. Like, no, this is the reason why, some of the work that they're doing, things that are more, they point, Jenny, as an interviewer, you're like, oh, this person didn't just show up here. They did some research on the company and they know at least one reason why they really want to work here. Then you talked about a startup environment, another space that I've played in a ton with hiring talent. And last summer, or last spring, right around last year, this time, I was working with this company, small startup. And yes, they took chances on people. They pretty much only had the kind of budget that you could get a college grad from. So to your point, having that business hat on, Jenny, talking about them being frugal. Yeah, when you're a startup and you have literally are trying to, do more with less, they will look for a college grad. They're like, we want college grads. We can't pay somebody $200,000. We have like 80K, 60K, like, would you take that? And college grads with no experience will say yes.
Yeah.
so you make such valid points.
When you start out small too, and if it is a really good, like, growing company, when you start out small like that, like, they'll see that, because it's very apparent. There's no hiding from not doing your job in a small company like that. So they'll see that, and then they'll be able to, raise you up as you go throughout time and through your reviews and stuff. So that could also be helpful.
Yeah, it's a launch pad. So, yeah. Jenny, we've went on for 45 minutes. We have two quick questions. I know. I mean, your advice is so valid, and I really, really appreciate having you on here. I'm glad Chris was at Chris's. He's like the real MVP, because he always brings on the awesome people. Bringing you on is like, it really takes us back to why we really started this podcast. We wanted to hear from people doing it right now. We want your experience. We want we want to hear directly from you. And because you've been in the field for 3 years, you have no degree yet. Go get your degree. Yes. You have no degree yet. But again, experience. I mean, I hate this. It's horrible to say, but people want experience, and a degree is a foundation. It's a definitely. I'm not telling anybody to not go get a degree, but a degree is a foundation. You have to do it in parallel with the experience, and hopefully your degree programs are providing those experiences for you. So Sabarish says, cybersecurity degree versus certifications. Which one should I go for? Will certs increase my salary? And what's the advantage for a guy who has a degree versus one who does not? I will quickly answer this, and then you guys can both chime in. Most large companies will only look at people who have degrees. If you do not have a degree, it tends to get very, very tricky, because they'll hire, like, there's all these other people, especially when you don't really have experience. I mean, when you have tons and tons of experience and you've been out for 20 years, it's a little bit of a different scenario. And even still, I've had people who have struggled to get the roles that they want, because the company will say all the other executives have a master's and a bachelor's or whatever. Bringing you in is just like a challenge. So I'm a firm believer in getting the degree. I say get it all. Get the degree, get the certs. Try to get the cheapest degree. It doesn't have to be a $50,000 degree or $30,000 degree. You have organizations like Western Governors, which I think their bachelor's is like 30-something hundred, which is probably a couple of certs. And I believe you get some certs with that master, with their undergrad. Yeah. So check them out, because you can get the certs as you're going through the program, which is huge. Jenny, that might be a good place for you too. Anybody else? Western Governors, you want to make us want to partner with us over here? But yeah, I'm looking at their degree program. Right, I'm looking at their degree program as well, because it's affordable, and you get certifications while you go through the process. Do you guys want to add anything?
I would just say, yeah, that's exactly right. Certifications tend to focus on technical knowledge, whereas most degrees focus on theoretical knowledge. They both have their advantages, so consider them both.
Yeah. And then Claudia makes a really good point too. Depending on the role, she says sometimes having an advanced degree can hurt you. I've had to modify my resume so I don't speak of my doctoral studies in some applications. And she's right. If you're coming in for something relatively junior, they're automatically the thought process is, why is somebody with a PhD trying to apply for my entry-level SOC job? This person wants they don't really want this job, even though that might not be the case. That could potentially come off when the degree is not aligned to the role. So she is absolutely right. And Tyrone says, get a degree in getting an associate's works as well, which is fantastic too, because so practical. So starting with the associates, although most companies, consider an associate. Like they look for the large companies, not the small ones. The large ones are looking for a bachelor's. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Any final words of wisdom? I know, Chris, you can ask your final question because we both all have to run. We didn't expect to be on with Jenni for so long, but she's so good. Jenni, you got to get that blog back up. I want to ask you about the shirt. I want to know what change means on the shirt, but Chris, you got any?
No, go ahead. Answer the change.
Current life situations in the world today. We all need some change, right? So.
Amen.
I just put it on because I was cold because I turned my air on. But this is like, I just bought this sweatshirt the other 3 weeks ago, and
yeah,
I mean, now I wear it all the time because I'm like, it's just a good message for the world today.
Yep, 100%. Love it.
Well, I think that's a great way to end it. Strive for the change that you want to be in the world.
Yes.
That's it. Period. Well, thank you so much, Jenni. You have to come back with us. We really, really enjoyed this. We did not expect to be here for almost 50 minutes. So 51 minutes. So here we are. And everyone else, we will see you tomorrow in our Breaking LinkedIn on Breaking into Cybersecurity to match up with us in Hacker Valley Studio. So thanks again, Jenni. Take care. And you got to come back and see us next year. We know you're going to be like a CISO in no time.
And quick shout out to AMZ for introducing us to Jenni.
Yes, thank you, AMZ.
Yes, AMZ. Everyone's like,
yeah, right? If you know, you know.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.